Hi,
Hi.
welcome back to Faith and Love. I'm Lindley.
I'm Love More.
So we're back after a very long while. Are we happy to be back?
Excited.
Yeah, so we thought for the first comeback video, we could talk about important conversations that you and your partner could possibly have prior to marriage.
Yeah.
So these are conversations that need to be had during your courtship stage.
Yeah.
So courting is, when you have that intention of marrying, you're not
Yeah.
just dating aimlessly. You actually see yourself or would like to consider building a future and a life with this individual if you see that you are compatible with one another.
Right.
So there are a number of topics, right, that are very key. But for today's video, we just wanted to focus on three.
Yeah, 3.
So we have faith
Goals.
and finances.
Yeah.
So babe, start us off with faith.
All right. So the conversation on faith, I think it's important to be had as early as possible, and we're going to start with it because it sort of provides the ground or the foundation on which your relationship builds on. You need to have an understanding of who or what faith, what beliefs does your partner have, and we're starting with that sort of to just lead us into these conversations, as well as it should be something that you probably have early on in your relationship. Now, as Lindley already said, when you're courting, the idea is that you're not just courting for fun. It's not just purposeless or aimless dating that you're doing, but you're courting with an intention in mind. So you're thinking of marriage, not that you're certain that you're going to marry, but at least you're weighing the options of whether or not this is going to be your life partner or not. So it is important that early on you understand whether or not you have the same beliefs. Why is that important? If you don't have at least the basics of faith, if you don't have the basics of your faith married or similar, or at least the same, then you will be what the Bible calls unequally yoked. And what that just means is that when cows are yoked together, they're moving the same direction. They can't go either directions. They have to move to the same direction, right? So if you're unequally yoked, then you're yoked, but your intentions are not the same. So you're pulling different sides. What is going to happen is that either of you two, it's either you're going to get tired or you're going to break. Like your bond will just break. So it is very important that you have this discussion early on. We're not saying that you should have the same level of faith, but you need to have at least the basics figured out together. And I think the level of faith or the zeal that you have for Christ or for ministry, that should ideally now start to feed off of you two as you're building your relationship, but at least have the basics together. Or you should at least meet at that basic level. Yeah. So how do you now start to at least have this conversation?
So, okay, before we go to how, I think also the importance of discussing your faith, even prior to you having that discussion of faith, it's very important for you to understand what you believe in and why you believe in what you believe in.
Right.
Because if you don't understand your why, you can easily be moved in any direction. So if your partner says, for instance, I can't think of an example, but it's very important that you know your why, because it's easier for you to stand your ground.
Right.
You're not just going in whatever direction you're being pulled in. But also when you're looking at building with this individual, I think based on my experience, I would say that first, if possible, try and go with someone of the same faith as you. So Adventist with Adventist. If you're Catholic, find a Catholic. It might seem like something that is so small and something that doesn't really matter, but when it comes down to it, your daily choices are kind of rooted in your faith and what you believe in.
Yeah.
So on the how, you need to create a very safe space.
Yeah.
An environment where everyone can come in and share their views and, share their beliefs without you judging them, without you, scolding them and thinking, oh, why would you believe that? That is stupid. You're not trying to undermine them. You're not trying to make them feel less than, or that whatever they believe in is silly. It might not make sense to you, well and good, but at the end of the day, this is something that they hold so close to their heart. So you would want to treat it, with the utmost care. Listen to understand, but also be ready to respond in a manner that doesn't make them feel condescended in any way. And also now you should be able to be honest.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when we start discussing marriage with our partners, and that there is this one topic, this one issue that could possibly, if I say the wrong thing or say something that they don't, believe in, it could ruin the chances of you being with that individual.
Right.
So now you want to shy away from sharing what you truly believe and hold close to you and say something that will please them.
Yeah.
That is not going to help you in any way. Because first of all, you're basing off your relationship on lies, and then those lies will catch up to you sooner than later when you're actually married, right? It causes a lot of conflict and then resentment on your end. So be bold enough to share honestly what you believe in. And your partner should be able to give you that safe space to be able to do so. Don't judge. But also lastly, you need to be able to understand that it could go either one or two ways. As he mentioned, courtship doesn't mean it's definite that you're going to get married. Right. You're kind of assessing. So you're having these conversations, asking these questions to determine, do I really want to be with you? Or is this a way out for me? I remember there's a sermon by Randy Skeet, Pastor Randy Skeet, and he told, it was a youth week of prayer, I think, and he told everyone that if you're not dating an Adventist, go break up with them.
Right, I think I remember that.
Right? Like, imagine you're going to church, listening to this sermon, expecting, yes, revival and, being called to make changes in your life, but a change where he's like, tonight, go break up with that significant other of yours who's of a different faith.
Right.
It seems so dramatic, but that's the same thing here. You're having these conversations, you're having these discussions, you see red flags, you see that there's a chance that you're likely unequally yoked, right? There's a chance that, your partner doesn't want to compromise. Well, not compromise, never compromise your faith, but he doesn't want to kind of play on a level ground, right? You should be able to make those assessments and make that decision to say, okay, I think I should leave. It's an honest conversation that should lead to hard decisions.
Right.
Whether you're staying, whether you're going, both decisions are hard. Staying is not easier. Staying means you're opening the door to more difficult conversations and more conflicts, trust. So either way, you go, you stay. It's not an easy road.
Just coming out. Yeah. And I was just going to say on like the first point that you mentioned on creating a safe space, I think what you're trying to do is you want your partner to come into that place where you're talking with an open heart. Like you really want to understand, because faith is something that like it's deep rooted in, like we grow up, most of us, like we've learned what we believe as we're growing up. So it's something that is usually deep rooted within us. Now, within pretty much our being, our hearts, So if you come there with a spirit of, oh, I know best, or you don't know, I'm better, I'm holy, I'm whatever, and you're just casting down on your partner, because this is something that you're trying to share, something that is deep rooted. Once they close, you're not going to achieve anything. So you want to help them to also open up and share and be honest with what they believe in. And then from what you share, then it's what you're saying right now, you're prepared now to actually make honest decisions based on truth.
I think mostly we start to think that, oh, okay, we're dating, we're courting, we're engaged. These stages were separate individuals, and then only in marriage is when we now merge these two.
Right.
But if you can get that practice, get into the habit of it prior to, whether it's devotions. I know when we started, okay, we weren't even dating, but we were friends, and we started sharing that devotional experience. So now when we came into marriage, it's not like we had to now start thinking, okay, so what do we do now in terms of devotions? We had that experience already. So we're just kind of continuing with it and kind of modifying it to suit our now.
Yeah.
So any other spiritual beliefs, if you can start going to church together, start to gain that familiarity in terms of community, church community, activities. If you can start sharing those activities together, because also I can sell it to you. Trust me, I can sell it to you and tell you that I'm going to do A, B, C, D. I do all of these, but you want to see them in the act.
Right.
You want to pray with that person and see, can they really hold it down? So it's very important to share those.
Yeah. Okay, so the next conversation that you need to have when you're courting and is a conversation on goals, right? So these are your goals as a couple, pretty much. Like, where are you going? Why are you doing what you're doing? As we've already said, like, when you've started this journey of courting, your intention is marriage, right? You're thinking marriage. Now, if you're thinking about marriage, that means you need to understand that step that you've taken, you've started to take steps toward your lives being one, right? You've started to unite. You've literally started the journey of uniting your two lives into one. Now, it is tedious. It is a lot of work, uniting two lives. Now, if you don't have a clear goal of why you're doing it, trust me, you're going to get frustrated at some point and it's going to break. But if you have that clear why are we doing what we're doing? What are we doing? What is our purpose? It's going to be important for you guys to keep going at it, even in the times that, things are not as great. Now, preferably, when you're coming into this conversation, you should have your own personal goals, like individual lives. You should have a sense of direction of where you as a person is going, where God wants you to be, going, and what's your purpose in life. You should already have those personal goals that you have, things that you want to do, things that you want to accomplish, and why you want to do that. Now you're coming as a couple to sort of try and unite those things. As I said, you're uniting your lives, so you're trying to unite also your goals to shape them into something that is one and both of you can work toward. So yeah, I think that's how you at least start, or why you need to have those that conversation early on as well.
Yeah, and also just to add, I think goals is a very important conversation.
Yeah.
And probably it's becoming more important now in our generation than it was probably in our parents' generation, because during that time it was likely that it's the man, who really has to think about what's our direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's never really been the woman, as long as the woman is there to help. But now we have women who are now established, others more established than, some men. And it's very important that, again, you're compatible in that area.
Yeah.
You might be someone who's very ambitious, and you'd want to pair yourself with someone who's kind of on the same level.
Yeah.
Not level in terms of what you've achieved thus far, but in terms of thinking. You don't want to just cross someone out because they haven't achieved yet what they have been talking about and what they would like to achieve, but at least you'd like to know that they're thinking about it. So when you're thinking of your goals, when you're discussing your goals, whether personal or now looking at the goals that you're going to have as a unit, you have to think about your spiritual goals, right? We've talked of faith. Now discuss what are your spiritual goals as a family, your financial goals, your career goals, your academic goals, things like those, whether physical goals, relationship goals. They're different aspects of it,
Yeah.
you know, but goals are very important.
Very important, yeah. So how do we at least start to have this conversation? How can someone or some people start as a couple?
So the starting point should be safe space. Okay, all these conversations, safe space is the bottom line.
Yeah.
We should be able to come in and be vulnerable and give our opinions. So once you have that safe space, I think you need to get rid of the me mindset.
Yeah.
Because now
yeah.
you're looking at goals as a unit.
Right.
So this means that you're not completely neglecting you and what you want and what you would like, but you're considerate of your partner.
Right.
Which means you compromise. Something that not everyone or most people or everyone probably doesn't really like to do.
No.
Because you've grown up 20 plus years, you've had your life planned out, then now suddenly you decide you want to have, you know, build a family and someone's coming in with their own plans, then you have to now start shifting yours in
Making
a way
sure
to accommodate theirs.
Yeah.
It's not the
It's not,
best.
yeah.
But you need to. Not compromising in the sense that you have to let go of yours completely.
Yeah.
If you do happen to have goals that are completely clashing, then figure out a way to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think we've come across a situation where our goals were clashing completely and we said no,
Yeah.
that the other must forego one of theirs. I think for us, fortunately, it's been quite easy to merge ours, especially on the, not career-wise, you know, academic, because we're on two different paths, but as far as whether it's business, because we're both creatives and our visions are very much aligned. So that hasn't really been an issue. But in the case where, for instance, academic goals, your partner wants to go get a PhD, but you would also like to get a master's, then you happen to have these opportunities in two different countries or even continents, and also there's a financial constraint, so one has to go before the other. Things like those. Compromise. You're not compromising to please the other individual.
Right.
You're compromising based on what is going to be best for our family. So that's something that you need to do.
Yeah, so I think being so exactly what you just said. I was actually thinking about the idea of studying when you were talking, so I'm glad you've mentioned that. I think the other thing is that you need to have realistic goals, because, okay, nothing wrong with dreaming big, but when you dream big, what I'm saying is when you dream big, have that I think cushion of giving yourself time to say that it's not like you're going to achieve all these things in the next, I don't know, year, or like some dreams they could even take a lifetime, you know. So you need to be realistic when you're sitting down with your partner and you're setting whatever goal is spiritual or whatever it is. Have your goals, but let them be as realistic as possible. So you need to have them being specific. So what exactly do we want to achieve? So be specific. From being specific, you want to have a time frame. How long will it take for us to achieve this goal, this specific goal? And then maybe you also want it to be measurable. So how are we going to measure progress toward this goal? Toward whatever it is that you have set as a goal. So be as specific as possible, but also be realistic. I think that is key. Otherwise, you just be overwhelmed, and you feel incapable of even achieving the things that you've set in the first place. Yeah.
So I think also on that, just to add, once you have those realistic goals, it's nice to break it down into tasks that you can complete, because sometimes when I think goals is a very difficult topic for most, because we look at it as what's the word I'm looking
What,
for?
daunting? What?
No, it's very vague, right?
Oh, okay.
It's not something tangible,
Right.
because
Like an abstract.
yes, that's the word. It's very abstract. So when we think of goals, it's very abstract. So if you can break it down, fine, you're going to have your short-term goals, so under a year, then 5-year, 10-year. But if you can now break those down, your short-term goals should be tasks that you can be able to achieve, because it's also easier when you actually have milestones that you can be able to tick off, rather than this big picture. And then it looks like everything is just not working. So if you can do that, that would be great.
Yeah.
But also, I think goals is a conversation that you don't have to do once.
Yeah.
I think it's a continuous conversation.
Definitely, yeah. And it's definitely like, it's not cast in stone. Like whatever you sit down, like, people change over time. People change. We are going through things. You realize that, oh, I'm no longer interested in this. Let me, adjust this. Let me, like, be flexible. Which is why I was saying it's not something that you just discuss today and, oh, okay, we've done our goals, let's move. No, like, that's a conversation that you probably have your entire life. Like, keep adjusting it and keep changing, which I think is important. I think it leads into the next step where it's important that you record your goals. Like, find somewhere that you can write. I don't know, a spreadsheet, or if you don't have,
you can even have like a family board of some sort.
Yeah, where you visualize, if you're artistic, or you just write, I don't know, your goals. And it helps you, like, when you write down goals, or when you write down anything, it's a step toward committing to that.
Yeah.
We're not saying you've cast it down. Like again, it can change where you just adjust whatever you wrote, but at least when you write it down and say, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing in a year. This is what we're doing in a month, or in a whatever. You're committing. You've taken a step toward committing that step, and it will help you even when you're trying to revise and to track your goals. When you have something,
your partner can keep you
accountable.
Yeah. Maybe annoying, but yeah,
a little. But it's very important that you have. Habakkuk 2 verse 2 says, I think something like, write down the vision. So like, it's important that you commit to writing down your visions, and it will help you to, go back to it and, oh, this is what I want to.
Yeah. So this takes us to our third area. So it's finances. And it's very important. Okay, whatever you decide that your goals are, whether personal or as a couple, this should now speak to your finances.
Yes.
Because your goals is pretty much the vision that you have. And your finances should be able to tell what that vision is, or what that direction is. So there are different conversations under finances that you need to have. The first one is money mindsets that you might have, and overall views of, money. Now, this could be stemming from the background that you have. So your family, how was money viewed in your family? Was it an open conversation, or is it something that people shied away from? How did your parents handle finances? Because that could either determine how you handle them, whether you follow suit or you choose to go in a completely different direction because you saw that their method was not, the best. And also, what does money mean to you? Is it something that you treasure? Some people really treasure it, and money is everything. Others really just don't care. So these are conversations that we need to have, especially even in terms of experiences that you've had with finances, whether in the past, and how that has molded your relationship with money currently.
Yeah.
You know, I think before you decide on what you're going to do together, it's great to do this, you know, background check. It gives you insight into why your partner handles money the way that they do. So for us, I think that was a very important conversation that we had to have, because apart from us already being, I think the fact that I have an accounting, you know, background and family of accountants, so money is something that was, first of all, it was open. I think my parents were very open with us regarding finances, how we need to handle it, and also based on my studies and also my experience with money, because I was very bad with money. I was a reckless spender. This was during university. So during my university period, I was a very bad, I had a very bad relationship with money. And to the point where my dad uses me as an example of what not to do when he's giving financial advice to people. But because of that experience I had during university, when I now came back home and started working, my relationship with money changed because of the experience I had. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we didn't have the exact mindset toward money as we're starting. And I think that caused some frictions, at least early on. But I think it's very important that we...
Even later on. Like up to the point before we got married. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was... Yeah, so it wasn't the smoothest of rides in terms of coming together and, you know, being one and moving toward the same direction in terms of money. And I think what I learned from our experience is that the importance of, first of all, being open, that look, this is how I view money at this time. You know, like, it's not easy. It's a vulnerable place to be, because you're saying this is how I view money now. And yeah, it's not the same, but I think those, when you're open, at least you have those conflicts early on, and then hopefully in the future you don't have them anymore. But like, imagine if we had hid habits early, and then we get married, and then, you know, the first month or whatever, like, we now, oh, this is how love must spends, or this is how Linley behaves with money. Like, it will be harder, and it's better, which is why having these conversations is really important even before you get married. And yeah, so I think on the same money conversation, you want to talk about your spending habits, spending or saving habits as a couple. So how do you, like, people are different in terms of how they spend or how they save. So are you more of a spender? Are you more of a saver? And again, I feel that it's not that one or the other is right. Like, it's not like, okay, if you should just spend and not save, or you should just save and not spend. Like, it's usually an issue of a balance, but it's important that you talk about it, like, as a couple, why, or maybe as a person, where are you? Are you more of a spender, or are you more of a saver? And then you try to bring those two together, which is what you're really trying to do at the end of the day. Yeah.
And also, I think it's important to understand someone's spending habit is not going to be in all aspects, right? In all areas of their life.
Right.
So there are different types of areas that people splurge in. Others might splurge more on electronics. Others might splurge more on clothing because they value looking good.
Food.
Personally, I splurge more on food. I'm not much of a spender. As I mentioned, because of my past experience, my relationship with money changed. So I'm more of a saver.
Right.
If I get money, I want to save it. You know, I don't want to spend. But I will eat. That's one thing I don't compromise on. I love food.
Comfort.
I believe people are on this earth to eat well. So whether it's food in my home or me, giving into a craving, I will spend on food. But in all other areas, clothing, electronics, whatever it is, I'm not a spender. I would rather I save my money, and I don't even want to touch my savings. But that doesn't mean that that's a good habit, because that also shows that I'm very rigid when it comes to using money on certain things, which is not a great thing, because there's some circumstances where you might just have to. So your spending habits, your saving habits. Ideally, if your partner is not a saver, you need to. I think at the end of the day, saving is a must.
Yes.
Like, I can't stress that enough.
Right.
So if your partner doesn't have that saving mentality, it's great that you have a conversation and you really plan to develop that saving culture. Whether you start saving 10% or 20%, if you can save 50%, do so. But it's also important to discuss your responsibilities. You're coming in to merge two lives, but you understand that there was a life prior to that.
Right.
So I know in our culture, it's very common that, firstborns, sons or daughters, these are people who have the greatest, responsibilities at home. Whether it's caring for parents, caring for siblings, caring for other extended family members, whether it's cousins, aunts. So you need to be open about that. For us, that wasn't really an issue because we didn't really have, other than caring for our own selves, there was no other responsibility.
Right.
I think the only other thing, well, not really a responsibility, but I was open to say, like, okay, I give my younger brother a monthly allowance,
Right.
and I wasn't planning on changing that. As long as I'm able to, I will continue to do so. So those are things that you have to be able to disclose prior to. You don't want to get into the marriage and then now suddenly you're expecting your husband to put in 100K for, I don't know what household expenditure you may have, but that 100K is now suddenly going to his mom or to a cousin, and you're like, wait, that's none of our business. So it's very important to disclose that prior, to understand such things before you get into it. Next.
Yeah.
So budgeting. Once you understand the background, the mindset of your partner, you understand the spending, saving habits and responsibilities. Now you need to look at, how do we budget for our family? Now, it's very important to have this prior to. I think all these conversations regarding finances, have them before you get married, because I'm glad because it's very difficult, especially when you're two different individuals with two different backgrounds and mindsets with money, because there's so many areas of conflict. I think we could never finish a conversation about money, whether it's how to do the budget or how to save,
just anything,
spending. Like, we could not finish a conversation without just being mad, and then the night is ruined because you can't understand why someone thinks this way and the other person can't understand why you're so, and so it's very important to, the moment you think of marriage, start having these money topics, discussions bit by bit in phases,
right?
So that you spread out the conflict, right? Because it's a big deal. So budgeting is going to be based on the lifestyle that you want to have. Lifestyle must be according to what you earn, right? Sometimes the reason why most people are deep in debt is because they're trying to keep up with a lifestyle that is beyond their means. So you budget, you need to now look at, with the money that you earn. Oh, and it's very important also, before we even, as we're discussing spending habits, all of that, how much do you make? How much do you make? Because if you're really thinking about building a future,
I mean,
how do you know if you're able to
finance
the
that you're trying
future
to be?
if you don't know how much each individual makes? So yes, the lifestyle, you need to budget and you need to be transparent about how much you make. Now, I know past generations talking about how much you earn was weird. Maybe even to date, some people don't know how much their spouses earn.
No, guys.
Not my portion.
No.
I want to know. So, yeah, that makes it easier.
Yeah.
Because you know how much is available to your family, at a particular point in time each month. So when you're budgeting, I would advise have a comprehensive budget. Even if you're not the type of person to update a budget on a monthly basis or as you incur expenditure, at least have a blueprint to say this is what our monthly finances should look like.
Yeah.
So you start off with your income, whether it's your salary, your business income, less your tithe, because tithe. All things belong to God. Then you have your savings, very important, savings and investments. Again, this speaks to not just your lifestyle, but your vision. The goals that you had set, right? Those now speak into what your budget looks like.
Right.
If you want to own a house, right? One of your goals was investing in property. Let that show on your monthly budget, whether it's 50,000 a month going towards, the project so that you can buy land. That must show on your budget.
Yeah.
So whatever goals you have, you should be able to read what your vision and your direction is on your budget. If you plan on going to study abroad, you need to have some sort of allocation going towards that in your budget, ideally, right? And things like that. So it's very important you have your income after tithe, you have your savings and your investments. And also, as I mentioned, the lifestyle you want to live. Personally, we thought it would be very wise to also have a savings sort of for like recreation or vacation or eating out.
Right.
Because it's necessary. Some date nights, maybe you want to do something. Maybe you feel like you just need a weekend away. Budget for it, save for it. You don't now decide the day before that, okay, now where do we get this money?
That's
plan
how you get
in
in debt.
advance. You can plan for a vacation a year in advance. So that's the type of mindset you now need to get into. Then your monthly expenditure. How much does it cost to run your house? And you need to be very exhaustive. Leave nothing off. Even if it's the pocket tissues you carry in your handbag, that must be on your budget.
Right. Your haircut.
So that at any point in time, you're able to look at it and say, okay, does our income match our expenditure? And do we have enough room to also save? That's budgeting.
Yeah. So I think that sort of leads you into, obviously, as we already said, things will happen, things will change, things that you didn't plan for. You could lose your job, one of you, both of you. These are eventualities that happen now. You need to plan ahead of time. Don't be, that person who's just caught off guard. Oh, what are we going to do? Where are we taking our next bills, our next monthly bills from? Like, plan ahead, which is why savings is important. Like, if you look at everything that we've discussed, it's leading into the next, like, which is why saving, even budgeting, because if you say, for example, one of your jobs has ended and a source of income that means has been cut, but you had a budget, so you have a clear outline of what your lifestyle is. You know where money goes to and where it doesn't go to, you can easily go back to that and say, oh, we actually don't need this for now.
Yeah.
We actually don't need, if you have, but if you don't know where your money goes, how are you even going to start to say, okay, now how are we going to live off from one salary?
Yeah.
But if you have that budget, if you have the savings will help you to, you know, cover in the things that you know that you need to live with. But you will also be able to adjust your life accordingly because you have already developed that spirit of budgeting and tracking your expenses. So it's very important that you take all those steps I was saying to plan. It will feed into those things because trust me, they will come. Like life is not just, we wish it was, but things happen, you know, it's up and down. So when those things happen, you say you're a businessman, your business is not working. How are you going to move through those things? Plan ahead. Eventualities are going to happen.
Yeah. And also just to add on that, I think in preparation for these eventualities, have multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
Don't rely on your employment because jobs are ending. So if you can start up a business, whether it's a small business, but just something to have, you know, just to keep things afloat so that whenever these eventualities do happen, you're not now, you know, firefighting and trying to figure things out. And one thing that important thing I forgot on budgeting is the roles that you're both going to play. Now, you know how much you both earn. I think it's very important to also discuss how you're going to manage those finances together. It's one thing to have a budget, but okay, what am I doing on this budget? So ideally, you should be open enough to say this money that I make, he makes is for the family. Or if you feel that you need to do it differently, go ahead and do that. But one thing you need to decide on, are we going to have a joint account where we, you know, deposit funds which we're going to put towards the budget and whatever is not needed for that budget we spend on ourselves? Or are we going to just have a pool, bring everything in, and there's nothing like my amount, my 500, his 50? No. We just bring everything together and we just cover costs as we go along, and money is going into savings accounts. It doesn't matter where from. You know, I think that's something that you also need to decide on.
Right.
Or if you want to take the approach where separate accounts, don't touch my money, but I know that I'm covering electricity, water, rent, and you're covering savings and, you know, whatever else there may be. You need to decide that. How do you plan on managing your finances together? Now, this could also be another area of conflict. I don't think it really was for us.
No.
I think for us, we both came into this saying our money will come together.
Yeah.
We discussed having a joint account, but we don't have a joint account.
We don't.
We have separate accounts, but we know that I know how much money goes into his account.
Yeah.
I know
So
he knows how much money comes into mine. Whatever needs to be paid for, whichever account, it doesn't matter. There are moments where I'll have his card, he'll have mine. Like, it's just our money.
We have the net, so we know, okay, this is how much money is coming into the family monthly, and it doesn't matter which account that money is at what point, but it's
if the money in my account is done,
we move to the next. So that's pretty much it. And
it makes things easier.
I was just gonna say, like, on the whole, if this person, I don't touch my money as long as I do my bills. If that works, great. But as long as the person is committed to that, because you might think, okay, he's committed to the bills, and then
now water has stopped, and it's like, but
conflict.
I thought you were
potential areas of conflict. Just make sure you have those conversations and be clear, like, as specific as possible.
Yeah.
It's very important.
And I think for us, having these conversations, even though it was in phases, and gradually we now came to this, we were on the same page eventually towards like the end, prior to getting married. And I think that's really helped, because when we came into marriage, none of these areas were an issue.
Yeah.
We already knew. We had expectations that were realistic. We knew how we wanted to do things. So now when we came into marriage, it was just execution. And I don't think we've had any issue like with finances.
Where is that
Why is
money?
it no? Like that was sorted out prior to it.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, I'm grateful. Because yeah, money is a difficult topic, and if you don't discuss this is one of the biggest areas of conflict I hear in marriages. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So that's the little nuggets that we had on important conversations to have during courtship.
I hope this was helpful.
Yeah. We do have other topics, but I think that those will be separate videos.
Yeah.
But for now, we think these
These 3
should do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you guys for watching.
See you next time.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and
yes.
share. Comment below what you think. Are these things that you guys have talked about? How's the experience?
Yeah.
Would like to hear your views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When should they expect a new video? We apologize for the silence.
We really
by the
do.
way.
We really do. It's not been the easiest
Yeah.
couple of months.
Change, a lot of transition.
Yeah. But we're back.
We're back.
We're back, and we'll be uploading a video the way that we've been doing in the past.
Weekly? Did you say every 2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
All right, guys. Bye.